Thanks for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. This episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Download the Spotify Green Room app and find one of our Locked On rooms. On today's show, I have some more thoughts about Aaron Boone, the 2021 Yankees, and ownership's failings. The Dodgers beat the Giants last night, and we have some insider thoughts on that series for you. Plus, it's the 20th anniversary of the flip play. I know. I can't believe it either. That's what's coming up.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Stacey. I'm your host for Locked On Yankees. Welcome to the show. It is Wednesday, October 13th. And as I said, the flip play happened 20 years ago tonight. We will talk about that later on the show, but I can't. 20 years of that replay being shown on every sports show whenever someone mentions Derek Jeter. That's just unbelievable to me. Holy cow. Before we get into the show, I'd like to remind you that you can listen to us in Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, Stitcher, Google. You can watch us on YouTube. You can subscribe, and you can play us on your smart device by saying play podcast Locked On Yankees. So I have more thoughts about Aaron Boone because I realized after I was done with yesterday's show that I had forgotten about a couple of quotes, and I have one of them on my phone. Of course, I also have other stuff on my computer because I don't have my setup yet. But once that happens, you're all in trouble because I'll have everything. Anyway, this quote annoyed me because basically, I agree with what they said. I agree with what the anonymous person in the organization said about Aaron Boone, and I've complained about it on this show. And I complained about it on yesterday's episode when I was talking about Aaron Boone. My complaint is it doesn't feel like he's hard enough on these guys. Now, you don't want a guy who's going to come out and yell at these guys and make them feel like crap all the time, obviously. That's not a fun way to be managed, and no one wants to be like that. You know, we don't need managers screaming at the players and flipping tables, although I have joked after crappy games that the Yankees, that Aaron Boone should be flipping tables, especially games where there were silly base running mistakes, horrible defense, just brain locks on the bases and stuff like that. And I feel like Aaron Boone doesn't have that kind of skill to be a manager where it feels like he apologizes for his players too much. That's what I want to say. So this was the quote. Some within the franchise privately complain about Boone, with the common refrains being that he should more bluntly assess team performance to the media when the Yankees play poorly, and that his bullpen choices too often don't work out. I feel vindicated because I have said that all along. There are times when he comes out after the Yankees have a bad game. And I know you want to accentuate the positive and not be negative all the time, but there is a place for negativity when your team is playing like crap. You can call them out. You can say to the media, yes, this guy didn't do this. We need to do this better. Instead of coming out after some of these horrible losses and saying, oh, well, so-and-so did well until this happened, or making excuses for people. No, come out and say, no, they didn't do their jobs, and we need to get better at it. And they need to get better at it. And that's the other problem. It feels like when you're watching when you were watching the 2021 Yankees, sometimes fundamentals went out the window. And where does that start? With the coaching staff. I made fun of the Rays probably about a month and a half ago because one of the beat writers was mentioning how they were taking infield practice. And I'm like, so they're like a baseball team? And he said, no, other teams don't practice infield every day. They practice infield every day. And my first thought was to be snarky about it and talk about the fact that most of the guys who are on the Rays aren't going to stay on the Rays because the Rays won't pay them. And when they go into free agency or they're up for, when the Rays want to make a trade, because they have no problem trading people away. So these guys are basically playing for their future, which is why they're playing so hard. And it's kind of funny, as I said, I wanted to make fun of them for that, but that's why they played so well this year, because those guys know that their future isn't with the Rays. They got to win now. They got to do better now. Of course, that didn't really help this weekend against Boston, but it would be nice to see the Yankees doing that sort of thing, right? Instead of seeing them making really horrible mistakes in the field on the base paths. It also doesn't help that Phil Nevin at third base. I know some guys take it upon themselves to run through stop signs, but Phil Nevin was not helping himself this year. What was the final number? The Yankees were thrown out at the plate 23 times. Yeah. And then let's get to Boone's bullpen decisions. The either bringing someone in too soon, bringing someone in that shouldn't be in and keeping them in too long problem that we saw in that Friday game against the Rays before the end of the regular season that got my dander up. Ooh, was I mad about that? Yeah, the Domingo Germán, Albert Abreu combo. You had to win one game. Actually, it would have been better if you won 2 out of 3. Then you would have had home field advantage in the wild card game, and then you probably would not have lost it. What are you going to do? But that's a problem with Boone. I know that yesterday on Michael Kay's show, he was putting the onus mostly on the players for why 2021 wasn't successful. But my question is, who gets the players? Who acquires them? Who drafts them? Who brings them up through the system? It's not just the players. You got to blame ownership. You have to blame the GM at one point. I know that Brian Cashman has basically put himself into God status, right? Because of everything that he did at the beginning of his career. But we're 23 years in now. The Yankees haven't been back to the World Series since they won it in 2009. And yes, there were some years there. 2012, as soon as Derek Jeter broke his leg, there was no way they were winning that ALCS. I almost said ACL. There was no way, right? They had no chance of winning that ALCS. With Jeter, they had a better chance of winning the ALCS, but I still feel maybe the Tigers would have gone on to the World Series ahead of the Yankees, but it wouldn't have been a sweep. Let's just say that. So there were some years there, obviously 2017. Let's not talk about that. But I feel like the need for Brian Cashman, like the Yankees have moved beyond the need for Brian Cashman. They need new blood in the front office. They really do. I know some people don't want to hear that, but they do. Well, it's break time. And this episode is brought to you by Green Room. Green Room is the first social audio platform made for sports fans. The app is free to download, and once you're in, you can talk with fans, athletes, and insiders in real time about your favorite team or sport. In your case, it would be Yankees and baseball. Green Room is the perfect place to start or join conversations about MLB. You'll find fans just like you in Green Room for watch parties, debates, post-game breakdowns, and of course, reacting to big news or rumors. You can even find locked on hosts around NBA, MLB, and NHL. Go download the free Green Room app now, currently available on all iOS devices, so that includes iPads. Be sure to create a profile, link your Twitter, and join the MLB group for the latest league updates. I know you'll find a ton of incredible rooms from your favorite teams and leagues. And you know what? Javi from Locked On Padres likes to do them a lot. And he doesn't just talk about the Padres. He actually grew up liking the Yankees. His favorite player is Brett Gardner. So if you find him on Green Room, go into his room and you'll have fun. So download the Green Room app today. Green Room, changing the way we talk sports. So the Dodgers beat the Giants last night. And there's a pattern in this series right now. It's the odd games, the Giants shut down the Dodgers, and in the even games, the Dodgers offense wakes up. So it stands to reason that in game 5, you're going to see San Francisco's pitching shut down the Dodgers in San Francisco and move on. And of course, it's the Dodgers and Giants series as the only one that made it to a game 5. ALCS is set. If you're not watching me on YouTube, I just made a face because it's the Red Sox and Astros. Ick. The Braves have moved on, and now they're awaiting whoever wins between the Dodgers and the Giants tomorrow. The Dodgers and the Giants are neck and neck going into a winner-takes-all game 5. This is what you want in the playoffs. All those other series were lame because they ended too soon. I like when series go the distance. And we have some insiders on Locked On. Gordon Beckham, who played baseball for 11 years, is one of our insiders. And this is what he had to say about this series.
At one point, you and I talked about how electric Fenway had been during the postseason, and it was rocking in LA tonight too. And I'm sure San Francisco is going to bring the heat for game 5. Do you see that home field advantage being a factor in this last game?
Yeah, I do. I feel like generally the home teams just have a little bit more energy and play a little better, especially if they get off to a decent start. So in this series, I've kind of seen that, even though they've split. I felt like the Giants kind of got away with one last night, winning 1-0. I mean, the Dodgers offense for that not to show up, it was just kind of crazy. But anyways, they're going back to San Francisco. I generally think that home teams have a little bit of feel, and who knows? I mean, this is such a coin flip. I mean, they've been doing it all year. 1 game difference in the regular season. So these they know each other well. There's going to be no surprises. It's just going to be who can show up and execute and do the fundamentals better. I think that's going to win the game.
I'm excited about game 5 because I don't have a horse in the race. I don't really care who wins. I can't even believe I'm saying this. I'm kind of pulling for the Dodgers, even though they won last year and even though they're always there, I don't know why I'm pulling for them. Maybe because I was going to say I have more Dodger fan friends, but no, I have a bunch of San Francisco Giant fan friends. That's the beauty of being on Twitter for nearly 13 years. I'm friends with fans of all different teams, and I have, lots of them. So I don't know why I'm pulling for the Dodgers. Isn't that weird? My father, if he knew, he would be so mad at me because I was born in 1974. I was raised to dislike the Dodgers, the Red Sox, and the Royals. So, if my dad knew I was pulling for the Dodgers, he would not be happy with me right now. But I'm kind of pulling for them. But as I said, the pattern is Giants, Dodgers, Giants, Dodgers, Giants. And as Gordon Beckham said, there may be a home field advantage for the Giants, but maybe not. You never know. And here's some more that Gordon Beckham and Daniela had to say about the Dodgers and the Giants. The only good series of the division series, in my opinion.
Force a game 5. The series has been awesome. These two teams are powerhouses, so it's been really exciting to watch. The Dodgers had their backs against the wall in that game 4. What was different in their approach tonight to keep this thing alive?
I thought they were just really aggressive. They came out really hacking against the Giants pitching, and I thought that they just kind of set the tone early that they were going to go down swinging, and you saw what happened. Obviously, Mookie Betts with a big game did what he needed to do, showed up in the playoffs. Don't let that guy get hot. But I mean, this has been a great series. I mean, 1-0 last night. The Giants take it, on a solo homer from Longoria. Who would have thought? And then the next day, Dodgers offense, which didn't show up at all, is now right back where they want to be. So this is anybody's. Who knows what's going to happen? Anybody's matchup. I think you got to go with the home team. I mean, going back to San Francisco, these guys have played well there all year. So we'll definitely see what happens. But it sets up perfectly for an awesome, awesome ending.
It really does. I agree. And, I shouldn't say the Braves-Brewers series was boring, because even though it only lasted 4 games, yesterday's game was pretty exciting. One team would pull ahead, the other one would tie, another would pull ahead, tie, and then Freddie Freeman. Of course it was Freddie Freeman off Josh Hader to put the Braves ahead in the bottom of the 8th. They go on the win. Yeah, so that was exciting, but I don't know. Like I said, I would prefer these series to go 5 games. Because you always want more baseball, because tonight we have nothing. There's nothing. There's no baseball tonight. This is just bad. So we have baseball tomorrow. Dodgers Giants for all the marbles, and it is at 9:07 p.m. Eastern. Why is it so late? What? 9:07? Why wouldn't it be 8? That's ridiculous. And it better start at 9:07, okay? Because if it starts at 9:07 Eastern, with all the commercial breaks and everything else that goes on during a playoff game, this game is not ending on the East Coast until at least 1:30. Ugh. And it's Urias against Webb. Ooh, okay. That's going to be a good game. Urias is 1-0 with a 1.80 ERA. He pitched 5 innings, 5 strikeouts. And then Logan Webb has not given up a run in 7 2/3 innings with 10 strikeouts, and he earned the win in his start. So yeah, this is going to be good. I know this is a Yankees podcast, but it's a baseball podcast. And like I said, it's the only game that's on tomorrow. It's the kind of game you want. Big rivalry. Teams are neck and neck. The Giants only have 1 more win. So yeah. I think it's going to be good. I hope it's going to be good. I shouldn't even say I think it's going to be good, because you know how sometimes you expect the last game of a series to be close because the series has been that way, and then the last game is like a dud because one team pulls ahead, they score like 4 runs in the first inning, and then you're just like, that even happened with the Astros and White Sox yesterday. I told you while I was on the air, I was checking the score to see what was going on, and the Astros ended up winning that game 10-1. That's just a bummer of a final game of a series when you're in the playoffs. Usually in the playoffs, you want a score to be close, 10-1. But people didn't expect the White Sox to go far. I spoke about this also. They played in a division that wasn't really that strong. They beat up on bad teams. They had trouble against good teams. So you kind of expected them to go out early-ish. And they did. And what are you going to do? It's playoff baseball. I mean, that's the one thing you could count on, is the fact that the White Sox probably weren't going to make it past the first round. Sorry to my White Sox fan friends, but I know that there are some of you out there who agreed with me. And yeah, so anyway, hold on. I screwed up here, people. Oh, there it is. Why? I don't even have to look. Okay. I have my script written out, okay? It just helps me. Well, not totally, but I have my ad reads written out, and I forgot to include Built Bar. It's time for me to talk about Built Bar. Did you know that Built Bar has so many delicious flavors that there's something for everyone? And when you talk to a Built Bar fan, they're definitely passionate about their favorite flavors. And if you don't know those flavors, here they are: coconut, cherry barcia, raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry, orange, cookies and cream, German chocolate. My favorite flavor is mint brownie. I say this all the time. Built Bars are not only the best tasting protein bar, but they're healthy. They're high in protein, low in calories, low in sugar. They're just amazing. And if you go to built.com and use our promo code LOCK15, you'll get 15% off your order. What you could do is get a mixed box where you get 2 of each of the 9 flavors, try them out, figure out what you like, and then just keep ordering them. Again, use our promo code LOCKed15 for 15% off at built.com. So, October 13th, 2001. I can't believe I can't believe it's 20 years. How is this possible? The Yankees are in Oakland to play game 3 of the ALDS. The 102 and 60 A's against the 95 and 65 Yankees. The A's went into Yankee Stadium, won the first 2 games. I was at game 2. And 27-year-old Stacey blamed themselves. They thought because they wore a bunch of Yankee stuff to the game, the Yankees lost, because I never used to wear Yankee stuff to Yankee games. I always felt like when I did, they lost for some reason. I don't know why baseball fans are silly and superstitious. So game 3 is in Oakland. It's on a Saturday. And my brother wasn't home from college yet, so I watched it with my dad. And I don't know if people remember this because everyone just remembers the flip play. They remember that it was 1-0. It was a close game. You know, it was kind of tense because only 1 run was scored. But do you remember how the 1 run was scored? A Jorge Posada home run. Yeah. In the 5th inning. But let's do this. I haven't done this in a while, and I haven't done it since we switched to video. So I'm going to go through the lineups for you because, you know, we love doing that. We like looking back at the past and, you know, names that are familiar, some names that are, you know, bring back bad memories, some names that bring back good memories. But here we go. For the Yankees, Chuck Knobloch in left field, Alfonso Soriano at second, Derek Jeter at short, Bernie Williams at center, Tino Martinez at first, Jorge Posada catching, Shane Spencer in right. He plays a role in this game. Randy Velarde at DH, Scott Brocious at third, and Mike Mussina pitching, starting against Barry Zito and the A's. Johnny Damon in center, Miguel Tejada at shortstop, sorry. Jason Giambi at first, Jermaine Dye, right field, Eric Chavez, third base, Jeremy Giambi, another player in this game. DH, Terrence Long. Left field, Ramon Hernandez catching, Frank Menechino. Holy cow, there's a blast from the past. Second base, and as I said, Barry Zito pitching. So Moose pitched 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, obviously no runs because the Yankees won 1-0, only gave up a walk and 4 strikeouts. Barry Zito pitched really well. His only blemish was that really was the home run against the home run that he gave up to Posada. Other than that, he gave up 1 other hit, walked a batter, struck out 6. Let's see who he walked. Let's try and guess. Who would he have walked back then? Bernie. Okay. Yeah. Sure. I kind of remember that. I mean, it was 20 years ago. So Jorge Posada hit his home run in the 5th inning on a 1-0 pitch. And it was right after Tino Martinez had lined out to center field. Then after that, Shane Spencer hit a double. Then Velarde lined out and Brocious flied out to center. Moose had a 1-2-3 bottom of the 5th, a 1-2-3 bottom of the 6th, and then the bottom of the 7th, the infamous bottom of the 7th. Jermaine Dye hits a pop fly to shortstop. Eric Chavez hits a fly ball to center field. So there's 2 outs. Jeremy Giambi hits his single to right field on the first pitch of his at bat. Now, the other thing about the flip play is Terrence Long hit his double on the 6th pitch of the at bat. And then it happened. Jeremy Giambi's chugging around the bases, doesn't slide into home. Derek Jeter comes out of nowhere, scoops the ball, gets him out at home. As I said, I watched this game with my dad in our den. And my dad didn't like when my brother and I would get too excited about sports. I, would scream and stuff, and he would kind of yell and be like, "What are you getting so upset about?" Or what's the matter with you? He jumped out of his seat when the flip play happened. I had only seen my father jump out of his seat 3 times during a sporting event. John Starks' dunk against the Bulls, the flip play, and when Phil Mickelson finally won the Masters, I believe that was in '04. Yeah, those were the 3 times I recall my dad actually getting excited about sports, outwardly excited about sports. As soon as that play was made, he looked at me and he said, "Oakland is dead in the water. They are not winning this series. That just killed them." And I said, "Okay, Gus, calm down. You never know what's going to happen." Who knew? No, my dad was one of those people who he was calm all the time. He never got flustered. I wish I got that gene because I did not get that gene from my father at all. It must have skipped. Maybe it would have skipped a generation if I had a child. My child would get the calm gene, but I didn't get that calm gene from my dad. So yeah. Um not at all. So that ends the inning. Moose is pumped up. If you recall, woo. And if you're not watching, I pumped my fist, and I believe I have that GIF saved on my computer. Then the Yankees go down in order in the top of the 8th. Then Mo came in the bottom of the 8th. I don't know if people remember that, but Almedo Sands, I kind of remember that name, hit a fly ball to right. Then Greg Myers pinch hit for Frank Menachino. He hit a single. Johnny Damon hit a pop fly to first. Miguel Tejada hit a line out to left. So they only had 1 hit, 1 left on base, still 1-0 Yankees. Mark Guthrie came in to replace Barry Zito in the top of the 9th. The Yankees went down in order 1, 2, 3. Jeter flied out to center. Williams flied out to center. Tino Martinez struck out swinging. Sorry. And then he swung, and then the catcher had to throw to first because he didn't catch the ball. There you go. And then the bottom of the 9th, the only scary thing was Jermaine Dye hitting a double. Jason Giambi grounded out to start. He hit a double. Eric Chavez struck out swinging. Jeremy Giambi, poor Jeremy Giambi, he gets tagged out at home. Then he makes the last out. Yankees win 1-0. And as we know, the Yankees came back to win that series. And I will have a story about Game 5 of that series on Friday's show because I was at that game. And I love telling that story, and I will always tell it. And if you haven't heard me tell that story, please tune in on Friday because that was a fun experience, and it's one of my favorite baseball experiences because I experienced it alone with my dad, and he's no longer here. So I like thinking about that and thinking about how we were together for a division series clinching game. And I think that was the only one I went to with my dad. So yeah. Anyway. So that'll be Friday. For tomorrow, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not sure. If something new happens with the Yankees, which I don't think it will, because as I said on yesterday's show, Major League Baseball likes it better when the teams who aren't in the playoffs don't make any splashes during the playoffs. They like to put kind of like a, what's that phrase? They don't want to like lock them down. What's that? I can't think of the phrase. Darn it. But remember when A-Rod came out during the '07 World Series to opt out of his contract? Yeah, baseball wasn't happy about that. So they kind of made it where they don't want the teams who aren't in the playoffs to do anything big. So I don't foresee anything big happening. But if I can come up with something cool to talk about tomorrow, obviously I will. And hey, if there are any anniversaries that I've missed and I have to look it up, if something happened on October 14th to the Yankees, and we can talk about that, we'll talk about that. But Friday, definitely tune in Friday because we'll talk about Game 5 against Oakland because that was a fun game. So that's it for this episode of Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including Apple, Google, Odyssey, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you get your podcast. You can watch and subscribe on YouTube. And when you get into your car, you can tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On MLB. Now you can make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present, and it's free and available on all platforms. One more thing, if you could be so kind, please rate the podcast and spread the word about this podcast to your fellow Yankee fans. We would really appreciate it. So enjoy your Wednesday, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.